Hi, everybody. Shannon Petrovich with Therapist Talks. If you can see me and hear me okay, please give me a little thumbs up or a little chat in the chat box. We are going to be live streaming for the next 45 minutes or so. So please welcome and um, go ahead and chime in on the chat box. Any questions, any comments, anything that you would like to share about or talk about, any topics you would like us to cover. We can cover lots of different things. And let's see. So I think that went in. Anyway, so I've gotten a lot of material. So if things don't come in on the chat box, I still have a lot to talk about. Things have come in over the last 3 weeks. I was out of town last week, so I wasn't able to do the live stream. And I thought probably a lot of people would be on vacation anyway and may not want to do a live stream that day. So we didn't get around to it last weekend, but we are here this week. So one of the other things that I've been doing lately is doing new videos. So 2 weeks ago, I did one that was called "Did the Narcissist Ever Really Love Me?" And I think that got a lot of views and a lot of interesting questions came up around that. So we can talk about that. The one before that was dealing with narcissistic son or daughter. And that seems to be a very hot topic these days, and a lot of people really struggling with that. So we have some, like I said, I have a lot of questions that have come in over the last 3 weeks. So I will start in on those. And when you have something come up, either a thought or a feeling or anything that you want to share, go ahead and put it in the chat box. And if I can just have somebody say hi in the chat box so I know that that's working. I know that's not the right term for it, but in the chat, just give me something that I know that it's working because I don't know. Um, anyway, I hope that it's going. So anyway, I think we'll start with one that actually just came. Hello. Okay, thank you. So I actually got a question that came up just a few minutes ago, 15, 20 minutes ago, how to get them out when they're homeless. So this was on one of my videos that's called, it's actually an older video, a couple of years old, that is about a narcissistic son or daughter. And that has been getting just tons of views lately. And sad to say, I think that's a very common issue. And like I said, I did an updated video just 3 weeks ago of dealing with a narcissistic son or daughter. So this viewer wrote in and said, how to get them out when they're homeless. They have no vehicle. They've burned every bridge. They're raging, violent, and I have no strength left to get them out for good. I really want my life back. So this is a really important question. And the essence of it is to really take a step back and regroup and work on how the facts are that this son or daughter absolutely needs you. If they have no vehicle, they've burnt every bridge, and they're homeless. So what you need to do is take a step back, talk to them, and write out a contract. You know, in order for you to stay here, these are the things that I need to see happen differently, and get very clear and very specific. And then talk about what the consequences will be and when the boundaries are violated. And when those boundaries are violated, then you have to follow through. And you have to wrap your mind around the fact that if there's violence, you have to be willing to call the police and go that route. And then ultimately, if they can't adhere to those boundaries and be respectful and be decent, and they are violent and raging, you have every right to kick them out. And again, you can do this in stages by having those boundaries that are really clear, really concise, and that you sit down during a calm period. You're never going to get anywhere by presenting this when it's already in a fight. You're not going to get anywhere if you're just throwing them out in the moment. What you need to do is set it up ahead of time. When they're in a calm place, you need to set up a time to meet, to talk, and to outline what the boundaries are and what the rules are, and then be willing to follow them through. If there's minor rule violations, this is what happens. If there are major rule violations like raging and violence, that you're willing to call the police and have them removed, have them evicted. And then again, you can say, hey, if you go to treatment, if you get some help, if you sit down and talk with me, then you may be able to reconnect with them. Everybody's different. Obviously, I'm talking in very general terms, which is all I can do in this format. But it's often true that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to set those boundaries, to have those sane conversations, and to follow through. And like I said, you have to be willing to take your life back. And that might mean calling the police. And it might mean that calling the police actually causes a change in your son or daughter. And then that then creates change that can be resolvable, and that you might even reconnect and become close again, if that is possible. And if they don't change, and if they don't honor those boundaries, then of course you cannot reconnect, and you have to go no contact permanently. But a lot of times we kind of do passive, 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 aggressive. And so we put up with, put up with, put up with, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. And then we go all the way to, you need to get out of here. And it's really not healthy or helpful. So we need to learn to be assertive. We need to say what we mean what we say, and follow through on those boundary violations, even if it means calling the police. A lot of parents say, well, I can't tolerate doing that. But if there's raging and violence, you absolutely have to save yourself. So the next question, again, if you guys have questions, please put them in the comment section. I'm here for you. But I have a lot that have come in over the last 3 weeks, so I will plow through those until I see any others. I've been following your channel, and you're explaining this very well. How is it possible that a narcissist couldn't have a stable relationship with me? And who knows how many times she hoovered me, and now she's in a stable relationship with someone else, and they've been married a couple of years now. I think this is really painful. A lot of times when you've gone no contact with somebody, but then you find out that they're doing well and that they're with somebody and they're happy or whatever. I think this can be a really painful thing, and it really switches on our self-judgment button. And when we start in that self-judgment place, we go down that rabbit hole of self-hatred and self-judgment again, and that's really terrible. In fact, one of the first chapters in my new book is, do you have an abusive relationship with yourself? And this is so common. This is really always where I start with clients is, and this is out on Amazon and Kindle if you want to pick that up. When you are talking to yourself in a negative, hostile, demeaning, cruel, mean way all the time, you have this toxic relationship with yourself. And when that's true, you have to start there. Before you can heal from or even set boundaries with anybody else, you have to heal from inside of you. You have to take those thoughts and turn them around and look at them and recognize that those are lies that someone taught you when you were little. Those are things about you that are not true and not helpful and not healthy. So you have to learn how to see those things for what they are. In my experience, the people who are this real narcissistic personality, they don't have healthy relationships, but they can sometimes look like they do. And so when you're looking out there and seeing somebody with a healthy relationship, and you know that person to be very narcissistic and very toxic, all you know about that is that probably that person is still in the fog. They're still in that place where they don't know what's going on and they think everything's fine. And eventually they'll get to the same place that you got to with that person. So don't be beating up on yourself when you think that somebody is basically doing it better than you did. It's 99% of the time not true. Is it okay to feel numb towards your narcissist sibling? who has caused you so much emotional and psychological trauma. When I say numb, I mean like I don't care what's happening in his life. No happiness, no anger, nothing. I wish him the best, but I simply don't care about anything. The worst part is that I'm going to be an aunt and I'm not happy about that. I'm sort of afraid for her and the baby. These are really normal feelings. And so it is, I don't know that that's even numbness. I think that's emotional distance. And I think that's actually a healthy thing. So when we're in that fight, flight, freeze mode, that's different. We are in that trauma reaction mode, and that leads us into that fight, flight, freeze. And as I've talked about in my book, that amygdala is firing off on all cylinders, and you're getting shots of adrenaline to your brain constantly. When that's happening, your higher cortex, your rational judgment centers are offline. So it's not a good place to live and be camped out in. So what I coach people to do is to emotionally distance and recognize, I call it watching the circus go by. Notice that what that person does is always what they do, and it doesn't have anything to do with you. That's what they do with those people and those people and those people. That's who they are, and that's what they do. So when you feel less anger and less animosity and less psychological trauma and emotionality, that's just you taking care of yourself, stepping back, recognizing that they are who they are. You can't change them. It's not about you, and you can distance yourself emotionally from them. And so that's actually a healthy thing. It's different than the numbness that you feel when you're in that freeze mode. That freeze mode is in that trauma mode, so that's not healthy, and that usually feels like that complete freeze, which is not good because, again, your judgment centers, your rational mind are not online. So that's not a good place to be. So let's see. We go on to another question. How can you tell that you are not the narcissist? So I've heard this a lot, and the interesting thing is that I think the reason this question comes up is because the narcissist has been telling you that you're the narcissist. And this is absolute classic narcissistic behavior, because when they are when they're acting out and they're doing all these awful things to people, how are they going to get out of responsibility or accountability for that? They turn the tables and they say that that's about you, that you started the fight, that you were the one that is being difficult, that you're the one that's self-centered, that you're the one that's non-empathic, that you're abusive, all of those things. And I've heard people who are in really cruel relationships actually start to believe that they are the one that are cruel and non-empathic and all of that. So I think when you recognize, this is a very common thing that narcissistic people, non-empathic people shoot back at you, that it's one of the games narcissists play, and it's a good one. It's extremely manipulative, and it's often very effective. So recognizing that that's not about you, that that's about that person, and then backing up again, emotionally distancing a little bit, and then taking the opportunity to walk down through. I did a video called What is Narcissistic Personality Disorder Really? And that would be one where you can walk down through it and go, oh, that's not me. I also list off those kinds of characteristics in my book, and so you can walk down through that. You can also, my most recent one was, did the narcissist ever really love me? And I talk about what love is. And I talk about how narcissists are absolutely incapable of that because they don't have empathy. They're not patient. They're all about themselves. So I actually kind of share it around the 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, it is not proud, it does not boast. And it's obvious that narcissists are all the opposite of those things. So narcissists don't love. And so if you felt loved, it was more than likely that you were doing what they wanted you to do in the moment. And so they told you they loved you, or that they were trying to manipulate you and they told you they loved you for that. And they can put on a good show for a short time, but basically, if you are capable of love and you are empathic and you are compassionate and you do those kinds of things, you are not the narcissist. The other person who doesn't do those things is. So, let's see. This is another one about kids who are narcissistic. I was literally at the place of what hoops, where are they, and how fast do you want me to jump through them? My kids villainize me to everyone they know. I've apologized. I've tried to guess what magic words are. Then I saw your videos. I deserve respect. I love this because it's so true. We all are in that place at some point with the narcissistic person where we are just trying, trying, trying. What hoops do I have to jump through? Um, how do I make them see that I love them? How do I do everything just right? If we got in another fight, it must be my fault. All of that kind of stuff. And so that's all placating, people pleasing, and peacekeeping. And all the P words have to go out the door because you cannot live that way. And it's never going to be enough anyway. So when your kids are villainizing you and you've apologized and you've tried everything, then you need to step back, recognize this is not your problem, this is their problem. And what you need to do is learn how to take care of you, set good boundaries, communicate assertively, and don't do all that passive stuff, which is um, placating, peacekeeping, and people pleasing. But you need to be assertive and have boundaries and then see how they respond. Again, sometimes when you set boundaries and you think they're not going to work, boundaries are not going to work. Boundaries always work. They either are effective in making that person change their behavior, or they are effective in showing you that that person is not going to change their behavior. In fact, they're going to escalate all the way to violence. And if that's the case, then you have the information you need in order to go no contact. So boundaries always work. They either work because they change the behavior or they work because they show you that that behavior is not changing, it's escalating, and you have to disconnect from that person altogether. And at the end of the day, they will know why you disconnected because you set the boundary and they didn't respect it. These kids go into therapy, and as narcissists, they tell the therapist how crappy their parents are, and then they go no contact. This is a tragedy that I have been seeing for the past 5 or 6 years, and I'm embarrassed for some of what our profession is doing. It is very sad to see that a lot of people are being told to go no contact with parents who are seen as wrong or bad or narcissistic, and it's really the kid who has manipulated the therapist. Again, if you've gone through this, you deserve respect, you deserve to have boundaries, and you don't have to put up with any of that. And, at the end of the day, what you need to do is grieve and take care of yourself and move forward as best you can. Both my daughters have ghosted me. I have no idea what I did. I've reached out with no response. This was very helpful. Thank you. So, again, I think that you can reach out and see if there's any response. You do your best and then you let go of the outcome. You can't control the outcome. And then you take care, you rebuild, you reconnect your life to others, because a lot of times a narcissistic person will disconnect you from everybody but them. And so when you are coming out of a narcissistic relationship, a lot of what you need to do is rebuild, reconnect, and sort of rejuvenate who you are, what you're about, what your life is about. And so that could have a lot of implications, that you reconnect with old friends or new friends, or find some new hobbies or volunteer somewhere, so that you have to recognize, okay, this part of my life I can't control, I can't rejuvenate right now, can't reconnect to because it's abusive, and therefore I have to start something new. I was just transitional target. How to resolve this past. Okay. My self-worth is destroyed. I was just used, and someone is good enough, but not me. How to resolve this past. So again, we need to recognize what of that was about you and what isn't. The part that is about us is the people pleasing, placating, and peacekeeping. So if you've done a whole lot of that, that part is your part that you have to change and look at. If you haven't set good boundaries in the past with people, that's your part that you have to look at and change. All their behavior is not your part. You cannot change that. And there's nothing you can do that will make them behave any differently towards you. So you have to let go of that hope, that fantasy, really, delusion. And you have to recognize again that you have to rebuild your sense of self. So when we talk about what our sense of self is, we have a real mess around that in our culture. We don't understand that our self, who I am, is my values, my character qualities. And so when you reconnect with who you are that you like and respect about yourself, then you can recognize, okay, this is who I am. This is how I want to rebuild my life. This is who I want to reconnect to in my new life. And this is what I need to leave behind. And so that's how you resolve that past. And it sounds simple. That's why I wrote this book. I literally wrote it for you guys because people have been talking for years about how you're lost in the fog. And so you can look this up on Amazon or Kindle. I've kept it really inexpensive. I want everybody to who wants it to be able to access it. But it really walks through how to reclaim yourself and reclaim your life and let go of all of the negative messages, all of the nasty messages that still live in your head and still dog you. Because that's basically you've started to do the narcissist work for them. So when they're devaluing you in the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, how could they say those things? And they said they loved me, blah, blah, blah. And then you start to do that to yourself. Every time you make a mistake, oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm so awful. Oh, well, if I was, you know, skinnier or more beautiful or whatever, then they would love me, or we could get back to how we were. The back to is never going to happen because they are who they are and they're not going to change that again unless you set boundaries and they decide they want to change that, and that's up to them. But that's how you resolve that. What if your daughter holds your grandkids from you when they're mad at you? This is painful and this is really, really sad. And so some of that may be grieving, and some of that may be just recognizing that you cannot control, you can't change, and you can't have any impact on what they do. You need to set boundaries no matter what. Now, if the grandkids are in danger, obviously you need to call Child Protective, you need to go follow through with the police. But if it's just them withholding from you, this is incredibly painful, incredibly sad. Make sure that you're not sort of expecting to have like the best relationship ever and that you always have to be on the same page with each other. Recognize that you can take that emotional step back and sort of learn to play nicely in the sandbox. Like you don't have to be best friends with your kids all the time. You don't have to have them listen to you. This was a question that came up a couple of weeks ago, that she won't listen to me. Well, your kids are grown-ups. If your kids are grown-ups, they may not listen to you, and that's kind of what it is, right? That you get a certain amount of time and then they don't listen to you anymore, and that's is what it is. They have their lives and you have your life, and so if it's just about them not listening or something like that, then you have to take a step back. Um, so what is it that they're mad at you about? Is it just that you are being you, or you're setting boundaries, or you're not taking their abuse? Then you have to walk away and let it go, and do your best to, love your grandkids when you do have a chance, and grieve if they are being withheld from you. Ah, thank you and bless you. Help so much to understand the intricate details of the sickness that my adult children are following of their birth fathers and stepfather. Both my ex-husband brought children from previous relationship. Oh, this is very long. I'm sorry. So, let's see if there's a question in there. When they say to you by beginning, I love you, but then begin to just run you down. Words are very powerful. And after being told um, awful things from the time of being a fifth grader, I'm not going to repeat that because that's mean. The most irritable person ever, and to awful things, and just go take your drugs or my epilepsy medicine. Your self esteem gets lower and lower, but no, I'm none of those things, just to make him feel better and sleep well at night. There's no mending. Even if he apologizes, permanent damage has been done. So, yes, permanent damage is done, and yet you can heal. Again, it's not something that is easy or automatic or takes no time and no effort. That's why I filled this book with journal prompts, because I want you to walk it through very thoroughly. I want you to recognize the work that needs to be done and then walk through the steps. Um, all of those things that are said to us as little kids, we do internalize, we introject that voice. And when we introject that voice, then we hear that voice. Anytime we make a mistake or have a hard day or stressed out, then those awful messages pop into our thoughts. So what we have to do is recognize those messages came from somewhere and someone else. That's not who you are. Who you are, again, is your values, your character, and those kinds of things. And when you recognize that, and when you can walk that through and recognize, no, wait, I like and respect who I am in my true values, my empathy, my compassion, my honesty, my integrity, my diligent work ethic, whatever, those kinds of things are who you are. And when you can re-embrace those things, then you can combat those negative voices in your head. Um, I love what you do for me, the narcissist creed. So this came on top as a comment from did the narcissist ever really love me? And that's essentially it. They love you when you're doing something for them, or when you are bringing them glory, or when you are bringing them adoration. And that's about it. So that is not love. Love is an action word, it's a verb, it's something that people actively love you. They care about you and they care for you. And that's something. Hi from Scotland. Oh, that's awesome. Hi. Um, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing when you feel actual love for somebody and from somebody. People who have no empathy and who have no interest or awareness of other people's emotions, by definition, can't love. And so that's really important. Being raised by a narcissistic mother, then marrying a man who is a narcissist for over 20 years, how to learn from how you learn from a very young age that you have to take care of yourself. You can't go to the narcissist for anything, not even a pat on the back or a kind word. That makes it so hard to accept anything from anyone, even after you're aware of the abuse and the whole subject of narcissism. It would be so nice to be able to feel comfortable in accepting anything, even just a kind word from anyone. It's truly a tortured existence. This is beautifully put, and essentially, again, this is when that narcissistic voice is in your head. And if you've been raised by a narcissistic mother, your primary voice was this hateful. And typically, narcissistic mothers are really hot and cold. So they love you when you're adoring them, or when you're bringing them adoration, or when you're bringing them positive attention from others. And then they hate you if you need anything, if you are um, any kind of negative feelings, expressing any kind of negative feelings, anything else. And so it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, and it's very crazy making. And people who grow up that way typically become people pleasers, placaters, and peacekeepers. And those are the three P's that dog you over and over again. And that's how you get hooked in with another narcissistic person as a partner, because you're really good at those things that they want and need in another person. You know how to be adoring, you know how to bring them sort of adoration and glory, and you know how to be placating and people pleasing all the rest of the time when they have any other moods. That's the kind of sort of perfect, tragically perfect match is what I called it in one of my videos way back probably 3, 4 years ago. The narcissist and the empathic person, a tragically perfect match, because the narcissist gets everything they need and want from an empathic person. The empath is getting everything that they don't need and don't want, and is being um, in this torturous existence. So it's really important to recognize, again, those voices are not yours. That is not who you are. You're a kind, caring, empathic person, and you don't deserve those voices in your head. You don't need to rent that person free, or those people free space in your head anymore. So you need to recognize, okay, that's mom's message, and that's my ex-husband's message, and start to sift those out and give yourself those positive messages of the truth. Excuse me, the truths of what's true about you. He loves you in the way you love a battery or a vampire loves blood. So yeah, a battery is a perfect analogy because you're constantly feeding energy to that narcissistic person. And a vampire is always sucking the blood out of somebody. And oftentimes being in a narcissistic relationship feels like having the blood sucked out of you. And typically they won't quit until you are bankrupt, until you're completely out of energy, out of money, out of that you're emotionally, socially, and spiritually bankrupt. And then they kind of walk away because you have nothing left to give. And typically that's how people are left. And that's how sort of down in the dumps a person is by the time they are done with you. So that's something that's really, really tragic. And again, if it's your adult kids or your parent, those messages are just so painful, painful, painful. Are those messages why some of us think we are the narcissist? Yeah, part of it is that the narcissist may be telling you that, but another part is that you can be so cruel to yourself inside your own head that you feel that you are going crazy. I mean, the gaslighting is very hard. People turning the tables on you and telling you that you are the bad person, you are the one at fault, sort of driving you crazy until you yell or scream, and then you feel like you're the one that started the fight or whatever. And again, being told that all the time can be really, really damaging. Um, it helps a lot to let go of the fantasy, false hope, and wishful thinking. Living in reality is a better pill to swallow from your delusional and confused psyche. Getting a pet helps. And I think that's sometimes true, that we do need to get our needs met from people or animals that actually can meet those. And I think that that's extremely important to recognize. You're not going to get blood out of a turnip, and you're not going to get love from this narcissistic person. So even say you decide that you're going to play nicely in the sandbox with your adult child who's a narcissist because you want to have access to your grandchildren. If you decide to do that, make sure that you don't think you're going to get that love from that person. You're not. You need to fill your life with people who are empathic, compassionate, and care about you. And again, you can do that through volunteer work, through connecting with other people, maybe reconnecting with old friends or family members that you disconnected from while you were in relationship with the narcissist. Before I knew anything about narcissistic personality, I fell for all the love bombing at the age of 50, and I'm an educated woman who has experienced much in life. After 2 years with this person, the mask slowly started to fall off. I remember the day the verbal abuse started as if it was yesterday. Anyway, the hardest part of this toxic, destructive relationship was learning how I was duped, betrayed, abused, looking back at what I believed in and trusted, how much I shared of myself, only to learn anything my ex said was a lie, and that he was incapable of love, compassion, empathy, and kindness. That's a really important piece. It is And a lot of us really put ourselves down harshly about being duped or betrayed or getting sucked into any of this. It's really eh, you have to recognize, intelligent, educated woman, and I appreciate that you share that because it can happen to anybody. And again, it can happen. It Some of these people are just really incredibly good at their lives, and it's hard to know. And you don't know until you know, and then when you know, you go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I fell for that." But hey, that person's been working on their shtick for a long time, and they got one over on you, and all you can do is pick yourself up, dust yourself off, recover the best you can, do the work that you need to do to rebuild and to reconnect and feel better about yourself. And creating positive community is really important. That's why I wanted this channel excuse me, I want this channel to be a supportive environment so that anybody in the world, anywhere in the world, Scotland, Australia, Sweden, I know we've had people from Russia, or from anybody from anywhere in the world can feel like they have a place where people get them and people understand what they've been through and people have compassion and empathy towards them. So that's really important to me, and that's why I started this channel. So I really appreciate all of you who are part of that. To this day, although much more enlightened, it's still so incomprehensible for me to understand how these people exist. I've still got lots of healing to do. I'm not too sure I can ever believe those words, "I love you" again, because as I look back, even seeing the red flags, he did a pretty good job in fooling me, and I'm not a pushover. Thank you for your experience and knowledge and for reaching so many of us who need support and validation from your online channel. Blessings. Thank you. So, my mom's, uh, any of those, yeah, it is. So, trust. This is a really interesting topic. And what I really talk about in the book, too, is that I don't want you to learn to trust other people. I want you to learn to trust yourself. So, if you trust yourself, if you rebuild your own sense of self and your own sense of boundaries and your own sense of assertiveness, and you let go of all the peacekeeping, placating, and people pleasing that you do in your life, and I'm talking all of it from what you do with this person, that person, at work, at home, everywhere, everything. Let it all go and start to be really rigorously honest with everybody and nothing else. If you do all of that work, you are going to know when someone is duping you. You are going to know when someone's full of it. You are going to know when you see somebody, you're not going to listen to their words, you're going to watch their actions. And you're not going to be quick to jump into something because the narcissist is all flash and crash. They don't get into relationships slowly and gradually like regular people do. Regular people start relationships in a very reciprocal, very gradual fashion. Narcissists, they jump in both feet and it's all flash and crash. So they're going to jump in and love bomb the crap out of you. They're going to, want to grab all of your time, all of your attention, and they're dumping so much positivity on you that your teeth should be in pain because of the sugar. It's just it's fake. And you will know that when you've done your work, but you won't know that until you've done your work. So it's extremely important that you do this work and really take care of yourself to the point that you can trust yourself and you can trust yourself to know this is a good person. This person has true empathy and compassion. This person is honest and that person isn't. And they will set off your creepometer. I talk about that in one of my videos and I talk about it a lot in the book too. They will set off your creepometer and you will step back and laugh inside of yourself and say, no way, Jose, not doing it, not going there again. So recognize that it's not about learning to trust somebody else, it's learning to trust yourself. And that's critical. Okay. I was my mom's emotional support during her divorce with my dad. She quickly got involved with my stepdad and tossed me away. When I expressed to her that I need more of her support, she took it as an affront and told me scornfully, "I love you, but I don't like you." I was 11 years old and very lost. I now see that she never cared. So this is again one of the videos that has been getting a lot of activity is having narcissistic parents. I probably should do another one on this too because I think it's extremely painful growing up with narcissistic parents. Um, and I think the "I love you, but I don't like you," to say that to an 11-year-old who's very lost is so cruel and so non-empathic and so non-compassionate. It just makes me cringe and makes me sad for what this young woman has gone through. So that would be a high indication of somebody who does not have empathy or care for other people. There's a line in a movie that really hit home for me. It's from the movie Mother. Basically, the male character took everything from his wife on all levels, and in the end, when she was dying, she said, "I have nothing left. You took everything from me. You never loved me. You only loved that I loved you." So that's a classic. Yeah, I think that a lot of times the narcissist loves that they are loved by you, and they love that you shower them with whatever they want to be showered with and adore them. And they absolutely want that and don't want to lose it necessarily. But that's not love. Love is an action from another person towards you as well as your love towards them. So again, the most recent video, "Did the narcissist ever really love me?" Kind of talks about that. I've had to go no contact. The onslaught of verbal abuse was unbearable. I tried so many times to make it work. She demanded apology after apology for the most menial of offenses, while she never owned up to all the horrible things she said. I never realized I was trauma bonded to my own daughter, but I was. She kept me from seeing my own granddaughter and then my newborn grandson while making unbelievable demands. It was at that moment I decided to go no contact. I have given my last gift and olive branch to her. That's very sad. And again, you know, going through that and recognizing that you have to ultimately take care of yourself is extremely important. And when you've tried and tried and done everything you can, and there's never any reciprocity, then you have to take care of yourself. The stress that you pour. So when we are stressed and our system goes into fight, flight, or freeze, we send adrenaline through our system. It's like toxic. Um, and so when you live camped out in that stress, you're actually making yourself sick on so many different levels. The physiological stress on your body from being in that constant level of alarm is really unhealthy. Everything from cardiac issues to emotional issues to anxiety, depression, um, just the list goes on and on. It is absolute destruction. You might as well be drinking poison all day, every day. So when you recognize that that's just too much, and you can't make it different, and you've done everything you can, and you've set the boundaries, and you've followed through, and you've done it all, then you have to let it go. And then you have to learn to rebuild and take care of yourself. Let's see. I appreciate you covering the subject. As another commentator has written, so many videos on YouTube seem to just talk about narcissism and romantic relationships or a narcissistic parent. I'm scared of my adult child as she leaves me feeling I have no self-worth. I'm unable to answer her back with all the gaslighting she throws at me. So this is where it's really important to use what I call radar reality. So if you're a sailor and you're sailing around in a place and the fog socks you in, you have to look at your radar. And on the radar, you're going to see these weird green lines. And that's where maybe a big rock is. And maybe that's the shoreline. And you have to kind of trust that radar reality, even though it's really scary to trust that. Our radar reality is the facts. So if you write out the facts of what this relationship has been like for you. That's your radar reality. And you have to recognize, okay, I got to make decisions based on these facts. I can't go on my trauma bond. I can't go based on my emotions. I want to stay connected to this person. I am trauma bonded to this person and I want to stay connected to them emotionally and physically. And it's really hard. But then I look at the facts. I got to get out. I got to take care of myself. I got to save myself because this is toxic for me. And again, it's like drinking poison all day, every day. Ah, grateful, Miss Shannon. Deeply important topic that so few touch on. Having an adult child mirror an ex that you left so the child would not be like that ex. Just to have the adult child turn out to be like your ex and has your beloved grandchild is beyond belief. It is beyond belief. And yet, unfortunately, and I hope this video and how many people are chiming in on it is that video has got, I think, 70,000 views as of now. Um, Helps you know that you are not alone by a long shot. And unfortunately, I think our culture is really feeding a narcissistic type of trait these days. I'm not going to say full blown narcissistic personality disorder, that's different. But I think there are a lot of kids, a lot of young adults with narcissistic traits, and a lot of people who are dealing with a narcissistic son or daughter. And it is crazy making. And it is sad and it is painful to have that happen. So take care of yourself. Recognize if there is any hope that setting those boundaries might be helpful. The newer video has not gotten as many views and as much attention yet, so you may want to jump in on that one. It's called Dealing with a Narcissistic Son or Daughter, and that's the updated one. And I talk more about boundaries and working on those kinds of things to see if it's resolvable. Grandchildren become another weapon. Is there a way around so I can be there for them? So we did talk about that a little bit so far, and talking about setting boundaries and following through on those boundaries. And again, boundaries work because they either give you the desired change in behavior, or they show you that that person is just going to escalate when you set boundaries, and then you know you have to go no contact. So setting that boundary helps you get out of that passive mode, that peacekeeping, placating, people-pleasing mode, and gets you in an assertive mode where you stand up for yourself and you say, these are the rules and the boundaries for me. And then if they disrespect that or even escalate around that, then you know that there really isn't anything you can do. But if you can let go of anything that you're doing that's people pleasing and placating, and you can play nicely in the sandbox and you can set those boundaries, you may be able to be there for your grandchildren. Some of these narcissists have it going on externally, but not anything upstairs. They obviously feel, let's see. So a lot of times they do feel a sense of pain. I don't like to focus on that. You know, a lot of people say hurt people hurt people. Yes, that's maybe true, but it's really not always true. The most narcissistic people are not necessarily the most abused at all. I've known so many people who've been through tremendous trauma, and I'm talking unbelievable trauma, who are never would be hurtful to another person. And I've also known a lot of narcissistic people who really had really tremendously wonderful upbringings, and that is incredibly baffling. So I don't think it's always true that hurt people. And I think it can lead to people giving narcissists a pass, and I don't like that. They need to be responsible for their behavior and their choices and their attitudes and their lack of compassion and lack of empathy and all of it. So I think it's important not to overthink that and overanalyze that, but just recognize they're responsible for their choices, and you can set boundaries. You're responsible for your choices in terms of boundaries and assertiveness. I've learned from my horrible experience that if you think something is not right, probably that there is, and get out of that relationship as soon as possible. before she causes serious harm. This is really true, and a lot of times we deny our instincts. We deny that reality when we list off the facts and just the facts, and we see that. And the way I talk about it too is also like if you were to share all of these facts with your best friend, what would they say? If your best friend were to share those facts with you, would you tell them to get out of that relationship? More than likely, yes. And so our brain, our higher functioning rational centers are not trauma bonded. Our rational centers are fact based. And so that's our radar reality. That's what we can rely on. Our trauma bonded amygdala is very trauma bonded. So that our emotions are trauma bonded, our thoughts and our higher functioning rational thoughts are not. So we have to let our rational mind take over, our rational mind make that decision that we're going to get out or set better boundaries or whatever. And then we can follow through with that. And we can let that little amygdala, trauma bonded emotional self go crazy. And it will go crazy because it's desperately wanting to grab that person back. But we have to calm that down and let our rational mind take over and let our rational mind steer that ship, because your emotional mind will steer right into those rocks, whereas your rational mind will take the facts, trust the radar, and move forward in a safe way. Hurt people know the pain from being hurt, so most don't do that to other people. That's exactly right. And if they do those hurtful things to other people, you know they have no empathy and you know they have no compassion. So it's really important not to give people a pass for that. So we are getting close to wrapping up. I still have some that I will put off for my next live stream. If I didn't get you to your question, I'm sorry. I will try to do a new video every other week and a live stream every other week. So that's kind of my new thing. And so please jump in on any of my videos and ask a question, share a comment, share an experience. I'd love to sort of be there and create community with you all. That's what this is all about. I love how you're all helping each other and supportive of each other on these live streams. So I super appreciate that. And let me see, I guess there are a few coming in. My daughter is a covert narcissist. I only began to figure it out in late 2018 and early 2019. I mistakenly thought she was just emotionally immature, even blamed it on the myth of redhead personality. I'll try not to take that personally. Yeah, and so, we can give people a pass for a while, and we can try to help them or try to support them or try to even educate and say, hey, that didn't feel good, and I really need you to be more respectful of my feelings or thoughts or whatever it is that they're doing that's being really rude and narcissistic. But at the end of the day, you have to take care of you and set boundaries and take care of yourself. Greetings from Glasgow. That's awesome. Thank you for the live stream. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. This will be posted, and go ahead and share it on your social media if you get a chance. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And again, if you really want to do the work to get well, my book, Out of the Fog into the Clear, Journaling to Help You Heal from Toxic Relationships, is available on Amazon and on Kindle. And I've kept it really inexpensive so that anybody who wants a copy can get one. And at some point, I'm going to try and figure out how to do a giveaway on this, but not knowing how to do that yet, I didn't do it today. But next time, 2 weeks from now, we will do that. And they say gingers are hotheads, but it isn't true. It is not true. I'm not a hothead. All right. Take care of you all. I love you very much. You take good care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.